So welcome to another YouTube video. This one is all about how we made the 10,000 characters, or at least how we're going to make them. You'll see Matt. You might have seen him in the 2-minute video. You might have noticed I had to cut out a few things that Matt said. So Matt, language tonight. So the general idea we're going to go over, we're going to show you the PSD file, which is a Photoshop file, what we got the graphic designers to do to make our life easier. Matt will go over how we made the names. Each team has its own specific name, and then the program that he wrote. And eventually we'll also go through making some of these characters and show them to you. So to get started, sorry, Matt, you haven't even said anything yet, but I'm going to get started showing people the Photoshop file. And I don't think you can see this, Matt, but I've got the bull up. As you can see here, we've got like background files, and these will change colors. Then we've got all the shields. So we can choose whatever shield we want. Let's go with this one. Then our main character, I won't open that because we don't want to give too much away. Clothes, we've got this cool robot. Singlet top, all these different clothes. And then we've got all the accessories. So you've got head, which is like football helmets, hats, so on, crowns. So let's go there. And then of course, eyes, mouth, ear, body, we've got everything. So it's all broken up into layers on Photoshop. And what we need to do as a starting point is to export each of these layers into its own file. So I'll show you what they look like. So if we go into assets, bulls, and then we've got, of course, left and right facing characters. So I'm in the left bulls, and we can see, let's say, the heads. And you can see here, this one's a bandage, a helmet, a hat, old school hat, headband. So as you see, they're all separate files that then Matt can work with to stitch them all together. And each one's on a separate layer. We layer them on top of each other. So you would get a background first, then a shield, then a character, and so on. So as you can see, we've put them all in these folders here, and then Matt reads them in his program. So we'll go over to Matt, and you can explain first how we actually make the names, because we had to figure that out, which was a bit of a hassle. And then how your program works with all these layers and stitching them together and all the rules and everything.
Yep, so we've created a large Excel file of different types of names for each of our characters, or each of our teams. And we've got a bunch of different fonts that we've been playing with on our for our teams as well. So for example, I'll see if I actually share my screen. I don't know if this will work very well, but we can see an Excel file where the first column is, the main part or the action item out of the team name. So we've got running here. And what my program will do is create an entry for running apes, and then another one for running monkeys, running simians, primates, etc. Yep. And then it'll go through the rest. But then it would randomly choose which font to use. So running apes might be using the font Predator, but then running monkeys might be using the font Bermuda. And once we generate all the different iterations of these fonts, then we pass it through to Photoshop. We've got a little script that then we run through that converts all these different names with all the different fonts as layered images. So then we can just put it on top of the image generation that we're using now with all the existing layers Steve just mentioned.
Yeah, and how many hours does that usually take? It takes a while, doesn't it?
It takes so long. I mean, we're generating way more names than we need, but it gives us a good opportunity to choose the best ones.
Well, we're not even choosing, but it gives us the opportunity to like delete really bad ones, because what happens, sometimes you get a super long name that just doesn't work. But yeah, I think the bulls, what were there, over 5,000 names that were done. And of course, there's only going to be 1,000, maybe 2,000 max bulls. So a lot's just wasted. And that's the same with all these layers too. I did the calculations and it was like over 1 trillion combinations, but we're only going to have 10,000. So there's a lot of wasted things that go into that. All right, so that's the names, and that's how we generate them. And then we get the transparent PNG file that we can put on top of everything else. How does the actual program work? And maybe show us the program and how it stitches it together, percentages and traits and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so let's this is one of the pieces of code. Let me just open up the main one. So essentially, I've created my own code. This is written in JavaScript, which is a very common language on running on Node. There are lots of different other, open source projects out there that did something similar, but we've got very unique features and rules that we need to apply. So essentially, what the code does is we give it an argument to say how many files to create. So we're going to say we're going to create an ape that is right facing, and I want to generate 1,000 files. Then it goes through and it puts in some constant traits like the background overlay, the shield, and the character. They are always going to be visible. So you will never get a team without a background or without a shield.
Yep.
Then it goes and it then applies all the different types of traits. So it will choose a random trait, and each trait is going to have a percentage whether it can be used or not. So we create these config files that we specify these percentages. For example, let's not worry about the background, but let's say the astronaut helmet. Now, this is a 5% trait, 5% range. So you'll only get an astronaut helmet up to 5% of the time.
Yeah. So when we eventually run that through 10,000, and everyone always sees on OpenSea, they go into properties and traits, and it'll be like background, character, so on. When we run this, we have a range of 1 to 5. So that means there can be from 100 to 500 characters with an astronaut helmet on. But we don't know if that's going to be closer to 100 or 500. Most likely, does it end up in the middle, or it's just purely random?
True randomization.
Okay, and how does the randomization work? Do you just have a program that randomly?
So, yeah, we're just using some of the inbuilt math functions in Node that just chooses a random number between 1 and 100.
Okay, and because we've got 1 and 5 there, so it needs to choose that number between 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then it'll say, okay, this one's going to have the astronaut helmet on it.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
And then once we going back to the main code, once we determine if we're going to include the trait or not, then we have to choose a random one. So in the example I gave, there's only one astronaut helmet. So let's look at something else. Let's look at clothes. So clothes in this example has 25 to 90. So most teams are going to look like they're going to have some sort of clothes in this particular config.
So in that case, there's a 65% chance they'll be wearing clothes. And when it doesn't hit that number, that means the character will be naked.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then it will go and randomize and shuffle all these different traits and then iterate through each one and then determine, will I be using this trait? So this is the shoulder pads clothes trait, and it's got 20 to 25. So that's a 5% chance.
Mm-hmm. And just stopping you there, these aren't the final trait numbers. I'm still playing around with them, trying to figure out what's a really rare trait, what's not. You can see if you go down one, the robot trait, that's going to be very rare. At the moment, I've got 88 to 90%, so the 2% chance. That would mean there would be a maximum of 200 robots throughout the 10,000. But I'm trying to figure out, should it be more? Should it be less? What's the rarest character? Well, what's the rarest trait going to be? So I'm still playing with all of this. So these numbers are just placeholders for now.
Yep. So yeah, the program will then choose a random. So once it's determined, yes, we're going to use clothes on this character, then it's going to determine which one of these to use.
Yeah.
And it's, it shuffles that list every time.
Yeah, because I saw there was like a lot of 20 to 40 range, but you're saying that it doesn't just grab the first 20 to 40, it will shuffle them like a deck of cards, and then it'll pick up the first one, and it might not be the shoulder pads, it might be AFL jersey that we see there, and then it'll say, okay, what is the random number in between 20 and 40, yes or no, and then keeps going until it does find that one that the number matches.
Exactly right.
Cool.
And once that's done, and it's picked all the different traits, we have some special rules that we need to apply, which are very specific to our project. And some of these rules, like let's say this one, the breathing fire trait and the wrestling mask cannot go together. So then we make we first see if that gets triggered, and then we remove the mask in that particular example. Going down even further, the hoodie down, so that means if the character has a hoodie that's not covering its head, it cannot have any neck traits.
Yeah, and the reason for that is, so our designers, when they did the hoodie, they made it much thicker piece of clothing than most of the others. So when you try to put some type of necklace on that, it just doesn't look good. You can see where it's meant to cut off and everything. And later on, we'll go through a couple of examples. We'll actually run the program and show you some examples. And you'll see that we still haven't perfected all the rules yet. So there might be some errors, but that's why we run it. We see what's working and not working, and then we add any rules that are clear-cut mistakes, like the fire mask with the wrestling. I mean, the fire breathing with the wrestling, when it looked like it was under, it just looked strange. It didn't work. So that's why we put that rule in. But then we had some with the hoodie up. No sort of head elements worked with the hoodie up. So we took them away. And we just, whatever file we looked at, and I've run through probably 10,000 already. If something looks off or the layers aren't in the right spot, I tell Matt what to change, and then he creates a rule in here.
Exactly. So if I want to run that now on my computer, it's a simple command. Let me just get the, so let's say I want to do one of the balls facing right, and I want to generate 10 of them. And there we go. So when it runs the command, it just doesn't create one image. It creates a 4K image. It creates a full 1K image, and a character only 4K image, and 4K being the resolution. It also generates the metadata too that lists all the attributes and all the traits.
Yeah. So the reason we do a 4K, a 1K, and a character. So on OpenSea, you're going to see the 1K version, and that's everything. That's got your shield, your name, your character, your background. But when you come to the NFTeams website and you log in with your MetaMask, you'll be able to see you've got your own Teams page. So you'll be able to download the 4K version that you can use anywhere. And you'll also be able to download your character. So that's without the shield, without the name. It has the background, but not the character in the background. And that's going to be used for social media. So if you wanted to make your Twitter profile picture your character, you could use the whole thing with the shield and the name, but it won't look as good as just using your character. So we're making sure to give you all of these extra images that you can use.
Yep. So let's, it's still going, but out of the 10, I think it's already done 6. So let me show you.
And I noticed that every now and again it will come up, rule something triggered.
Exactly. That was just for me to identify when one of our rules were triggered, just to make sure that the program is doing what it's supposed to do.
Yep. And so while that's running, I guess we have to wait for that to finish.
Oh,
So
I
the
can show you
meta,
some.
I was going to say the metadata. Yeah. Okay. You can
Yeah.
show.
So you can see some of them have been generated already. So this is the first one it generated.
And can you open one of the folders and show the yelling man cows, like the extra stuff that they're going to get? So yeah, click on the 4K.
Yep. So that's the full 4K one.
No, that's a 1K one.
Oh, sorry, 1K. Then you've got the 4K character only.
And what we're going to do, we still need to trim these. So you would just get it trimmed. That will perfectly fit with Twitter and Facebook and all those sort of social media sites.
Exactly. And then we've got the full 4K version, which is like a 1.4 meg file there.
So that's a yelling man cow, and he's got his bubble gum and a shooting sleeve. He's a very clean character. It looks like he only had 2 traits. So where is the metadata for this guy?
So under meta, he was token ID 2. So I'll open that up in my trusty text editor, and I'll share that screen. And here we go. So we can see this is the metadata that he's created.
And first, I guess I'll cut in here, and you'll see attack, defense, skill, and luck. So all teams are going to have traits like this, their stats, and they pick a random value. For the first game that we create, it's not important, but we're doing this early because we know in the future, games that we do create will use all this sort of stuff. So your team might be very average, but if you get a lot of stats that are high in value, your team still might be very good later on. So before trying to flip a team, probably check those stats as well, not just the rarity, but look at your stats as well. And there'll be a lot more stats added than just those 4. This was just for testing purposes as well.
Yep. So here we can see, apart from those stats, we also have other stats of like what background it was using. It was using a black background, and then it was using a gold shield. So, and then it just goes on and on with all the different types of traits that we're using. Yep. And this is what will be uploaded to OpenSea. So right now, some of them look not human readable, just because we're basing things off file names. That will change in the future. So shield would actually just be saying gold.
Yeah. So each shield folder holds 10 different shield types. So I've actually got to come up with names for each shield. So I know there's a triangle type shield, and that's going to be called the Dorito. So if you got the gold one of that, under shield on OpenSea, you'll see gold Dorito. But yeah, I'll have to come up with names for all the other shields as well.
Yeah.
Here we go. So yeah, you can see a few different shields.
Different types of shields.
Yeah. And of course, these will also have rarities. There's like rainbow gold ones would be rarer, and then all the rest would pretty much be about the same rarity trait.
Yeah, so there's just 60 shields in this folder alone.
Yeah. And each left and right shield has been flipped. So then we have to do everything all over again for left and right. And because characters are in different positions, we also need to move the shields for each character. So it's a lot of work per character as well that we have to go through.
That's the technical stuff out of the way.
Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's how everything's brought together. And then what I do, we'll come back to my screen here. So I'll open up the program because Matt taught me how to use this and run it. So I have to go into the folder, what's it called? And then like Matt did, I'm going to run some. So let's node index.js art. Let's make 5 apes right Okay. So that's generating on my computer now, and you'll see them in the output. So they'll start spitting out here. And what we'll do, we'll make 5 right facing, 5 left facing, and then we might do 5 right facing bulls. And then we'll come back here and we'll go through them. So what I'll do, I will generate these now, and then we'll fast forward through the next 5 minutes. And then we'll be back and we'll go through all the images. Okay. Okay, so that's 20 done. I need 5 left apes, 5 right apes, 5 left bulls, 5 right bulls. Now, you can see here we've got our 20 files. We've also got 20 folders and 1 metadata folder. So let's have a look through these. So these are the right-facing chimps. As you can see, that one's looking fine. Proven primates, everything's looking fine on that. We've worked a bit more on the ape, so there shouldn't be as many issues. You can see the hoodie down here, and you can see that it is thicker. You'll notice like there's a lot more teeth. We have to play with the rarity there. We don't want too many with teeth like that. But the Cairo monkeys, the rogue primates, and now they're facing the other way, the Dublin chimps. And you can see this background. This is a more rare trait. So it's a rainbow background. But you'll notice that the mouth guard here, that's going to be changed. So we're only going to have the logo there. Okay. This is one of our favorite helmets, the right click and save Mad Dog version. These guys are shoving apes. Then we've got the sewer chimps, and this guy's fairly clean. He's only got an ear in and a shooting sleeve on. Okay, this guy's got a bit more, the power hungry chimps. So he's got a mask, a COVID mask as well, but an eye mask, some jewelry, and a shirt. And then we've got the farting chimps. He's got some zinc on, a gaming headset, a polo shirt. And then we go to the bulls. So you'll see maybe some more errors with the bulls as we're still working with them. We can go through these. Here we go. You'll notice that, see this gold necklace. If you see this bit up here, it doesn't sit properly on the shirt. That's because it sits properly on this side, but not this side. But the shirts are a bit bigger than the character's size. So we need to put some rules in or make some changes there. So we'll finish off looking at them. And stuff like these fonts, we still need to work on the font spacing and everything like that. Okay, United Kingdom Taurus, Bangkok Bullocks. Here we go. So this is a good one, actually. So our gold ape, our gold bull. When we get a gold one, we actually have to add a bit more stuff to it to make it even more gold. But whenever we're going to have to go back and look at and find all the gold ones that we make, because we've got a little bit of special stuff to add to those guys as well as the robots. We've got the grounded oxes as a gold trait, which will be fairly rare. The strapping moo cows, fairly basic guy. So here's an error as well. Matt, you can't see my screen, but I've seen 2 of these now. We've got we've got the background. We've got the bull trait in the background. We've got an Astro helmet, the name, but no shield, no character. It's strange. I've seen 2 of these now. So we'll have to look at the metadata on this and figure out what went wrong. So this is why we test all of this stuff. Although getting this ghost bull might be a very rare thing. And then the next one, the yelping bulls. So this guy looks pretty cool. The cunning man cows. That was a tongue twister. But we've got Astro, a moustache, an earring, some clothing, a neck trait. So there's a lot of traits here. And that was it. That was number 20. So that's what we've been doing, running the program, finding errors like we found there, fixing them up, running again. And then hopefully we're ready by the time we've got all the characters. We just have to keep adding these characters in, and each character takes a couple of days to get in, to convert all the layers, to do all the fonts and the names and everything, to test. I send back to Matt, he updates the code, I test again. So all this takes a lot of time, but we're getting there. We're very close to the apes and the bulls done, and our workflow gets quicker and quicker each time. We still don't even know the final count of characters. I remember it was 75 at the start was the dream, and that was never going to happen. I assumed it was going to be a lot easier than it has been. Then we went down to 50 and then 20, and now it's going to be in between 10 and 20. Whatever we can get done, we'll do. But the apes and the bulls will probably be a fairly common character. So even though they look really cool, if you care about rarity and flipping, you probably don't want to get one of those. But that's pretty much it. Did you want to add anything, Matt?
No, I think you've covered everything.
Okay. Well, so that's it. That's how we're creating the characters from scratch. Next week, I'll be back with another video. I'm not sure what, but until then, don't forget to like and subscribe. They're down below. We'll have links everywhere, Twitter. Discord is the big one. Get in the Discord because that's where we give all the information. We do have a release date for the main sale. So it's going to be October the 16th at 6 p.m. Australian time. So we're excited about that. We finally decided to choose a date so we can aim towards that. It's a little bit later than we initially hoped, but there is a lot of work to do, and we are working our butts off to get these characters done and out to you. So thanks again for watching, and we'll speak to you next week.